The stars had gone silent. Not in the way they always did, whispering the quiet hum of distant suns, but in a hollow, almost mourning quiet, the kind that pressed against the hull of a ship and made a veteran of countless wars shiver. Commander Jaren Kade had seen death in every conceivable form, starships detonating like supernovae, armies cut down on frozen moons, colonies abandoned to cosmic storms. But nothing had prepared him for the being that floated ahead of his ship now. She was the last of her species, and she was encased in armor so advanced it made entire human fleets look like toys. Her silhouette was elegant, almost fragile beneath layers of gleaming, organic alloy. Each piece of armor was etched with patterns that pulsed faintly like bioluminescence, a language Jaren could not read but somehow felt in his chest, a rhythm that whispered of life, memory, and loss. He had been ordered to extract her. Not negotiate. Not communicate. Extract. The Coalition feared her species' final secrets, weapons technology, memory archives, star maps older than Earth itself. But when Jaren approached, docking a skiff to the derelict orbiting station where she had been found, something within him stirred. Not obedience. Not fear. Empathy. The airlock opened with a hiss. Vacuum scrubbers cleared the corridor, and Jaren's boots clicked against ancient alloy flooring. He saw her then. The way her armor was sculpted to mimic a living being, her posture not defensive, but exhausted, almost mournful. The official orders screamed in his head. Contain. Extract. Do not engage. But Jaren's hand moved before his mind could argue. He crouched near her, scanning the armor. It was an intricate system of plates and adaptive shielding. Removing it meant risking death, not just for him, but for her. And yet, he could not ignore what he saw beneath the helmet's faint reflections. A pulse. A heartbeat, not mechanical but biological. Commander, a voice hissed through the suit calm, dry and formal. You are instructed to remove no part of my containment. Her voice was soft, musical, and tinged with centuries of pain. Why do you hesitate? Jaren swallowed. Because the cost is yours and mine. And I don't know if either of us can survive it. There was a pause. A long, delicate pause where the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. Then do not, she said finally. But know this, I am the last of the Solari. Every secret, every memory of my people, dies with me unless someone dares to risk everything. Jaren's fingers grazed the armor's locking mechanism. He remembered the faces of entire colonies lost in conflicts he had commanded. He remembered the screams of soldiers who had died for ideals they would never see fulfilled. And he made his choice. The process was perilous. The armor's locks were not just mechanical, they were neural, attuned to her unique bioelectric signature. One wrong move, one misread pulse, and the system could collapse violently, sealing her forever in a sarcophagus of alloy. He aligned his tools with care, watching her breathing through the exosuit's pulse indicators. Steady, she whispered, and for the first time, Jaren realized she was aware of every risk, every calculation he made. Minutes stretched like hours. Sparks flickered. Alarms sang warnings that Jaren muted with a careful hand. The corridor's temperature shifted slightly, and he felt the alien life force within the armor tremble under his touch. Then click. One segment fell away. Light poured from the opening, revealing the faintest shimmer of skin beneath. It was pale, almost translucent, yet vibrant. Veins glowed faintly as though her body stored starfire in place of blood. She shivered. Not from cold, but relief. Keep going, she said. Please. Jaren's pulse raced. He knew that each removal now could trigger defense protocols embedded in her armor. But the human instinct to save, to act, outweighed the fear that gripped his chest. One plate after another fell away, and as they did, he saw the truth. Centuries of history encoded not just in her memory banks, but in the way she carried herself. The curves of the armor mirrored her species' evolution. The plating hummed with bioluminescent patterns telling stories, warnings, songs of homeworlds burned or forgotten. Finally, the last segment released with a soft hiss. The helmet lifted. Jaren held his breath. The Solari woman looked at him. Her eyes were large, violet, and impossibly deep. They held starlight and sorrow, and the weight of a species that had survived every extinction until now. I am free, she whispered. Yes, Jaren said, voice barely audible. You are. Then the alarm screamed. Red lights flashed across the station. Motion sensors detected approaching coalition patrols. His extraction window was closing. He turned toward the docking bay. She followed, moving gracefully despite centuries in stasis. You risked everything for me, she said softly. I didn't think, he admitted. I just couldn't leave you there. She studied him, the faintest smile tugging at her lips. Few humans act without calculation. Fewer still act without fear. You have both, yet you act anyway. Perhaps that is why your species survives. The docking bay doors were almost closed when the first patrol ship arrived, weapons ready, scanning for the Solari signature. Jaren gritted his teeth. Go manual override, he muttered. We leave now. The Solari stepped beside him. Her hands hovered over the station console. She spoke an incantation in her language, words older than any human tongue. The station shivered, power fields bending to her will. The patrol ship scanned, hesitated, and then veered off. They can't follow, she said. You just stopped them? Not stopped, she corrected. Warned them. My species survives in adaptation. Subtlety is our weapon. They reached the skiff, and Jaren piloted it through the silent void, adrenaline and relief mingling in his veins. She watched the stars pass in silence. Why save me? She asked finally. Jaren hesitated. Because no one should carry the last story alone. You're the last of your kind, and someone has to make sure it lives. Her eyes shimmered with something he couldn't name. Gratitude. Sorrow. And perhaps hope. I have lived through millennia of silence, she said. I believed my people were gone without witness. You restored that. For the first time in centuries, the Solari laughed softly, a sound like chimes in a quiet cathedral, a vibration that seemed to echo in the bones of the skiff itself. They traveled for hours, navigating through uncharted sectors where the light of known stars dimmed. Each passing moment reminded Jaren of what they had done, defied orders, risked fleets, and preserved a legacy that had been thought extinct. Finally, they reached the coalition border. Safe space. For now. The Solari turned to him. What now, human? Jaren considered. We tell your story. Carefully. To the right people. Not as a weapon. Not as a threat. But as a testament. She nodded slowly. A history preserved, not repeated. I trust your species to honor that. He exhaled, feeling the weight of centuries lift slightly from his shoulders. You will not be alone anymore. I never truly was, she said. But now we will begin anew.